Okay, for this tutorial, we will be using the My Piano. We're jumping ahead to Unit 2 so that you can have an opportunity to check out some different ways for us to do this work. And we are going to be looking at My Piano Part 1. Just like what we did before, we're going to do the template and we're going to download it. Again, this is definitely something to think about. How are you going to be getting your students to get these materials? And you are more than welcome to use these videos that I'm creating if you would like, if it helps you, or if you wanted to use them with your students. So here, as you can read, and you'll have access to this, what we are going to do is start by importing the My Piano template. And it is located in the Unit 2 folder. It's very nicely organized. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight that and I'm going to download it just like I did in the last one. Again, I'm going to change the name of it. It's a personal preference of mine. If you do not want to do that, you certainly don't have to. So I'm going to rename mine My Piano Roach. One of the reasons I do this is later when I'm working with the students, sometimes it gets confusing for me to remember which one was the one I created and which one was the one that was created by someone else to use as a template. So again, I'm going to go to my project. I'm going to go to import. I'm going to choose the file. I'm going to go to My Piano Roach. I'm going to open that up and I'm going to say OK. And then the next step that I am going to take is I am going to go back to my guide and I'm going to have a look at what it is that I am being asked to do. So I'm looking at Part 1. You'll also notice that this is a very nice, user-friendly. There are all these different variations. So there's a challenge, there are directions with hints, there are lots of different ways that you can be looking at this, and you can feel free to poke around, and we'll have some time to do that on Tuesday. But for now, I am going to be working on Part 1, and I've already imported my project. The first thing that I am going to do is read this. I always have to remind my students and sometimes myself. So the designer is empty, but the media files are there. So let's go have a look at that. And here they are. There are all the media files. You can see all these WAV files are in there because when the App Inventor team created this, they put them in there. So students can also upload sounds. The next thing that we have to notice is that the goal is to make a piano with 8 keys side by side. And our first instruction is that we're going to need a horizontal arrangement. And you probably also notice that it's in landscape. So what we're going to do is follow these instructions and we're going to drag a horizontal arrangement onto the screen. So I am over here. I'm going to go to the layouts. I'm going to go to horizontal arrangement, and I am going to drag that onto the screen. Actually, I see that there's already one dragged onto the screen. So sorry about that. I can't remember if I did that or it was already done for me. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to change the height of the horizontal to 50%, and we're going to make the width fill parent. So you should be looking at this. Here is the height, and we're going to make that 50%. And here is the width, and we're going to make that fill parent. So now you can see that it matches the style. I think it was already in there for us, so I apologize if that was a problem. Okay, next step, we're going to need 8 buttons because we are remembering that the goal is to make 8 keys. So we're going to drag 8 different buttons into the horizontal arrangement, and they're going to be side by side. The next bit of information you get is that these are their names, and we can talk a little bit about naming buttons while we're doing that. So here we are, and we are going to go over to the user interface, and we're going to be dragging these buttons in. And as we're dragging each of the buttons in, we're going to notice that they are side by side, and we are going to be working on creating names, colors, and sizes for them. So for now, you don't really need to worry about that, and you can kind of decide what makes sense for you. So you could drag all your buttons in and then rename them. That's up to you. So here they are, and note you may not be able to see all of them. So just kind of keep that in mind. So that's button 1, button 2, button 3, button 4, button 5, button 6, button 7, and button 8. So I know that these are out of order. It doesn't really matter because I know how I want to rename them based on these instructions. So here they've called them C note, D note, E note. You could call them C alone if you wanted to. That part's really up to you. And the place that we do that is here where you see the rename button. So C note, D note. And if you want to get a 2-for-1 in, you can be changing the text at the same time. So I can change the text here, and it'll appear that way here. For the D, I'm going to make that a D. For the next note, I'm going to change it to E note. Some of this is going to feel a little rote, and it might be good to remind the students that often in computer science you do need to put in the work to accomplish those tasks. So I'm on E. I just want to make sure there weren't any sharps or flats. And I am now doing the F note. And now the G note. And I was about to say the H note, but I know that that's not a note. This is a good time to also talk to your students about music and whether or not they play musical instruments. And then the last one is going to be the high C. And did I change the text for those? I'm not sure. I don't know if I changed it for B. And it looks like I need to do that. Okay, now I have done that, and I did a little bit of a 2-for-1 by also naming them. And now I'm going to go through and I'm going to start changing the properties. So for the first one, it's going to be red. The height is going to be fill parent. The width is 10%. And that is true for all of them, but the colors are different. So, and you can allow your students to be creative with this if you want to. So again, height's fill parent, width is 10%. So I'm starting with this one, and I am making it red. I am making the height fill parent, and I am making the width 10%. As time goes on, your students will hopefully get a little bit better with these. I'm going to do it pretty quickly, but it will definitely take your students a while to do that. And while you're doing this, you might also want to just notice that what's happening is this is filling up all of the space that you gave it in the arrangement. And we've decided that the width is going to be 10% of this whole thing. Again, these are users' choices. As your students become more creative, they might have the opportunity and ability to do these in different ways. Or often I'll just say to my students, sure, like they're like, can we pick any colors? I like pastels. And I say, yeah, go right ahead. That gets the students pretty excited about some things. So Again, we're doing fill parent, we're doing 10%, and we will continue like so. One thing that is really nice about the user interface is it's very obvious when there is a mistake. So that can really help students notice what's going on or to detect if they have made a mistake in this part. They also might sometimes get frustrated because they want things to look a certain way. I would encourage them to do that as long as it makes sense. Sometimes they want to spend more time on that, and it depends on what your goals are in terms of whether or not you want students to be focused on the user interface side or the coding side. Next, we're going to drag a label and a button, and we're going to put both of those below the horizontal arrangement. So here goes a button, and here goes a label. So over here, we are going to get a button, and then we are also going to grab a label. I put them in the reverse order, but I think that's okay. So the next thing that I'm going to do is go to the media drawer. So this is where the media is found, and I'm going to grab a player and I'm going to drag that onto here. What that does is it enables sounds to happen. And I'm going to name the button Clear Button, and I'm going to make the label Notes Label and the player Note Player. So Clear Button, Notes Label, and Note Player. So here I've got Clear Button. I would encourage the students as much as possible to rename their buttons. It really helps when they're coding, and when we look at the other side, you'll see more about that. Okay, so this I'm renaming to Notes Label, and the player I am renaming to Note Player. And where the text is for the notes label, I'm going to set it to blank. And the text for the clear button, I'm going to set to clear notes. I actually set it to clear already, but I'm going to change that to clear notes. And over here on the text label, I'm going to set the text to blank. So there'll be nothing there. And now I am going to go to the next section where we're going to have some time to stop and think a little bit about what is going on in this piano.